Go. Hey guys, Dennis here.
Why aren't you on?
And we got Alex on here, Muddy Water Search and Recovery. Chrissy wasn't able to come over. I'm still testing positives for COVID, so we didn't bring her over tonight. And she didn't get a hold of me about popping on with this like Alex does. So she'll be on next week on our live feed then. But thank you for being here and for your patience. It's been sickness after sickness, I think, with Muddy Waters recently.
I think there's a bug over there in Woodmorth. So, and Bobby says, "Hello, twins." It don't work.
But it was brought to my attention a day or two ago that we have actually had a couple videos that disappeared off of YouTube, and I went back and tried to find them. They're just not there no more. I think we're missing 4, maybe 5 videos. I don't know why they were taken down, but I'm still digging into those to try to see what happened there.
Which video?
One of them was where we stand on the Randy Leach case. Another one that I know we're missing was the one we had so many people asking about Dan Flanagan with the Constance Perry case. And he was supposed to have got released in March of 2023. But actually got released June 10th. So we done a video explaining that. That one's gone. And it looks like there's 2 or 3 more that's missing, but I'm not sure which ones those were.
When did you notice these went missing?
Somebody messaged me. It was I believe it was yesterday, last night, that they were missing. And it might have been the day before when they sent the message asking. It looked like somebody had tried to share one of the videos on Facebook, and it was coming up video unavailable. So they reached out, and I got to looking into it, and they're just gone.
Huh.
So hopefully...
Is there anything that you can do reaching out to YouTube to their...
What I got from them was somebody can flag a video and then YouTube will look at it, and if it violates any of their standards, they would take it down. So they said that could be what happened. And we're normally pretty careful to try not to do that. And to have 4 or 5 of them go missing all together like that, it was weird. And so hopefully we can get figured out what exactly happened with that so it doesn't happen again. And then I'll be able to go back in and see what videos they were so we can kind of redo any of those that we need to get back out.
Yeah. Interesting.
And I did want to point out that, announcing that Dan Flanagan was released early out of prison, we're not trying to imply he has anything to do with Randy's case. I know his name comes up a lot in the Randy Leach case, but several people have been asking when he was going to get out of prison. So we just wanted to update everybody that they did let him out on June 10th.
Yes, I know a lot of people had been asking that, and, it was a subject that does get brought up from time to time. Because I believe his original release date was in March, wasn't it? I think that's what the news stations were reporting. So evidently he's evidently, you know, was good while he was in, and evidently he got out early for some reason. So
See, seeing that whole situation is one we'll get into on a different live feed because I think there's a lot to cover there. That whole situation is just hard to wrap your head around.
it is.
Some kind of plea deal and then still getting out even earlier than what that deal was. But we'll get that all broken down in a future live feed. Next Sunday night, 7:30 p.m. Central Time, our live feed that Sunday, we're going to be back on Randy's case, and we're going to dig into and break down the timeline of events leading up to, during, and after the party that Randy went missing from. And we'll run through the timeline that we have, and then we will open full discussion and basically break it down and tear it apart, and any inconsistencies in the timeline, we will explore all of those, try to see what's missing or what may have happened instead of something else. I know there's a lot of things with the timelines that, well, basically just not accurate. They don't add up. So we will break into all of those next week on the live feed. So just keep that in mind. We wanted to get that out a week early so everybody's prepared for that live feed and know what we're going to be covering, and just help us all jump right into it. We're going to, since it is a lot to cover, we will keep our normal updates at a minimal and basically just jump right into it.
That definitely going to be quite a bit of work to pull this apart and put it back together like a puzzle. You know, there's so much, but you know, possibly splitting this up into three ways. You know, from basically Randy being in high school to, you know, the night of the party. You know, basically somewhat maybe doing after the party to possibly, you know, exhausting those efforts to maybe the point of when Alberta and Harold legally had him declared dead to current date. You know, what is happening as of current date today, you know, September of 2022. What is the actual current happenings that are going on with Randy's case? And possible, you know, eyewitnesses, stuff that, you know, possibly is publicly talked about that's going on in the legal system with him. You know, there's quite a bit. There's really quite a bit to break down and go over and stuff. So definitely breaking it up would probably be the best thing for everybody. That way people can, you know, ask their questions, write their notes, and you know, at least now knowing, you know, ahead of time now where we're starting out at is, you know, everybody who can start getting questions thought of or rounded up as we talk about stuff. You know, it'll be next Sunday's episode will be that first, you know, part of this discussion for the next 3 Sundays. Hopefully. As long as Dennis doesn't keep getting sick.
Yeah. Hopefully this is about done. Hopefully.
I hope, man. I'm telling you, I think you're going for the champ. I'm going to get you the COVID King trophy or something.
Hey, I will give that away very quick.
and just to let everybody know, how many times have you taken a test and been positive now?
This is the 5th separate time that I've tested positive, and the at this point, it was probably the worst round that I had. The first round had been the worst, but I think I passed that this go around.
Yeah.
Jennifer says, get him a bubble. I need a bubble.
Get him a bubble, and I'll get him some of that stuff we give the cows. You know, all the hillbillies were shooting up with last year. I remember right. Ivermectin is what it was called. So I've got the syringe bottle ready to go whenever you're ready. Get straightened out.
Well, guys, we've been saying we had a lot of new cases come in, and today I was digging through those, and we've had 5 of these that they have now been located safe, and 6 of these have been located deceased. Located safe, we had Aaron Law, Candence Means, Jason Rivera, Taylor Criswell, Lauren McQuigg, and located deceased, we had Deborah Gutierrez, Chris George, Alex Head, Tanner Elmore, Nathan Giemenhart, and Jeffrey Ronzin were located deceased. So our thoughts and prayers go out to the families who their loved ones were located deceased, while the chapter of wondering where they are may have closed. A new chapter is opened for those families, so keep them in our thoughts and prayers.
So sad that, you know, it's sad that, you know, we can't find these people before these terrible things happen. You know, just in general, the authorities, their families can get to them before things happen. You know, it's sad. It's really wish that, you know, we could prevent this to where it's not so, the ratio of deceased to finding alive. Wish we could get it flipped around to where we can find them all alive.
See, just about an hour ago, I was on Facebook. Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, one of our cases, they had a Facebook page set up for him, and I believe it was his sister that posted this, and it said, "It has been said time heals all wounds, but I do not agree. The wounds remain. In time, the mind, protecting its sanity, covers them with scar tissue and lessens the pain, but the pain is never gone." And I thought that just really summed up what most of these families are going through with their missing loved ones.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. It's very true what she says about time and healing. And I think you and as many phone calls you have made as you've reached out to talk to people who have gone missing, sometimes you get positive feedback where they do want to talk and they do want help. And I believe you told me that there's been plenty of times where you've called and talked to somebody and they're just like, you know what, they're gone. It's been so long. We've moved on. You know, we've healed. We don't want to drag it back up. We don't want to relive it, you know, and it's hard because it's hard when there's direct family members that want that. And then there's, you know, you're outside of your direct family members that do want it, and friends and friends and your extended family, I guess, who do want to find them and who do want it. But sometimes, you know, people's children or, you know, a child's parents, they don't want to relive it. They're done. they've gone on. And when we get down here in a few minutes to some other subjects, I do kind of want to bring that up. A little bit of research I was doing this morning was really completely has blown my mind once again when it comes to missing people. But I agree, that a lot of times time does heal things, but it doesn't always heal because it's always there, and a lot of people deal with things differently than others, unfortunately.
And some of the research you've been doing is on numbers of missing people. And the numbers you were giving me was just staggering.
Yes.
So we're going to let Alex kind of go into that, because just seeing what the numbers were several years ago to where they are today, it's like, what is happening that's causing this?
Yeah. So this morning I checked. I usually, I know it's kind of silly, but it's not silly, but I check every day. I check every day because I am curious every day the amount of kids that go missing, adults, whatever. So as of yesterday's date in the state of Kansas, we have 579 adults and children missing. Yes, as of yesterday's date. On a good day, we will have anywhere from, I would say, 10 to 15 people go missing. And then in the state of Missouri, I checked, and as of yesterday in the state of Missouri, are you guys ready for this? 601 adults and 680 kids have gone missing in the state of Missouri, according to the Highway Patrol, as of yesterday. I've also noticed that with Missouri, it evidently looks like the Highway Patrol does the majority of the counting. And this isn't going to be like a bashing Kansas against Missouri, but it's clearly clear that Missouri does a better job with providing pictures of missing people than Kansas does, whether it's adults or children. I noticed in Missouri that there is a tremendous amount of these kids, these 680 kids, that I would say it's pretty split between being young children and juveniles, a split. Whereas in Kansas, the majority of the children that are missing, kids or children in the state of Kansas are of juvenile age. And the majority of the ones in Kansas are out of Sedgwick County and out of the Wichita area. So I'm really concerned what's going on in the Wichita area. If it's these kids in juvie halls, whatever you want to call it, the correct terminology, I don't really know. But there's something going on. Every day there is at least half the kids that go missing. Well, I'll take that back. At least half the people that go missing every day in the state of Kansas are juveniles out of Sedgwick County, out of Wichita. It's to me, it's an alarming rate because one, it's either, I think we had discussed this before, I think they're getting lost in the system. I just can't see how many 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old kids are going missing out of Sedgwick County, and it's not on the news. They've got to be being misplaced or runaways out of the juvenile system that are in some type of juvenile homes or in juvenile custody, because something's not right. But in the Missouri, out of them 680 kids, there's a tremendous amount of young children that are missing, that are in the younger age range. And like I said, on the Missouri Highway Patrol, it breaks it down into regions, districts, and they do a really good job with pictures. I've noticed as you get on KBI, you're better off going on to Facebook or just going to Google image search of this person's name and missing and where they're missing out of to get a picture of somebody, which 9 times out of 10, it takes you back to Facebook. But definitely on the highway patrol, they are on it. I mean, for the most part, I would say the majority of them have a flyer made, and you can print the flyer off. And they also have 1 to a few pictures. So definitely, I guess excited is not the right word to use, but it's a positive note that the Missouri Highway Patrol takes that much effort into putting the information out there, and they give a description of possibly what could have happened. Whereas on KBI in Kansas, they don't tell you crap. They just tell you, age when they went missing, the age they are today. They tell you the race, the gender, the county, and possibly the city. And that's really it. They don't give you a description of the situation at hand, how they went missing, or nothing. Whereas Missouri does. So, and then also with the state of Missouri, it does break it down into counties and cities, and then you go in, like I did look up Kansas City, Missouri Police Department, and I went to their page, and I did go look at the missing people, and they are pretty good at the same thing, pictures, information, like that. And something else I noticed on the Missouri Highway Patrol website is they have a section of unidentified remains that you can go and look at. Sometimes there is a picture of an article of clothing on the body. They're not super graphic. They'll show tattoos on the body. And yes, you can see some decomposition in it. Sometimes it is like a clay bust model of the person's face. Sometimes it might be a article of clothing. Like there was a case out of St. Louis. There was evidently she was 6 or 7 years old, a girl found in a warehouse building. She had on a white sweater. I think this was in the 70s when they found her body. She was decapitated. She did not have her head. They did not find her head anywhere in the building, outside. But they showed the article of clothing that she had on when they found her. So yeah, it's really interesting that Missouri. I've never looked up the Kansas Highway Patrol to see if they do the missing people stuff. Usually I just go to KBI. I've always thought KBI was the #1 place to go to. Maybe they are not. Maybe I need to investigate the Kansas Highway Patrol and see if they do the same as Missouri Highway Patrol. But I did not know they had a section with unidentified remains that, that gives pretty good details of the body, location, intersections where the remains were found. So I spent a little bit of time looking at remains, dates, going back into the missing peoples and looking at height, weight, the race, the gender, and trying to see if I can make any connections, stuff like that. Because, like I said, I never paid attention to that before. So yeah. But what it comes down to is we still have an alarming rate of children going missing, whether, what age, what the situation is, they're still missing, whether they just got lost in the juvenile system. Evidently, like I said, it's the juvenile system must be pretty huge in the Wichita, Sedgwick County area of Kansas. There's still lots of adults going missing every day in the state of Kansas. It is pretty alarming. It seems like Missouri has had a longer stretch of people missing, from the 60s into the 70s into the 80s and so on. Whereas Kansas, there was people missing, from the 60s and the 70s, but I'm talking only maybe 15 at the most. And then the last few years, it has just blown up in the state of Kansas. And I don't understand why this is not being talked about on the news, because it's pretty alarming to me.
And these cases not getting enough coverage, you actually started doing something to help get those cases out there.
I did. So you and I had discussed trying to start advertising on billboards. We had gone through a few companies. It is very pricey, very expensive. So I managed to get involved with a Blip representative a couple weeks ago, and I talked with him, and he kind of explained to me how the Blip program worked. So Blip buys basically screen time on digital billboards. And basically they might be able to buy 5 hours out of a 24-hour period. So then they sell that 5 hours, and then they break it down. They break it down into peak hour time, off-peak hour time. They break it down to meal time. You can break it down just to a certain hour of the day. So I started the week before last. So if anybody who's from the Kansas, Missouri areas, Kansas City, Kansas, Kansas City, Missouri, Blip has 8 digital billboards that they buy space off of. So I don't know who has seen it, but I can give you guys a rundown of the names. So, of course, our number one person that we started off with was Randy Leach. Randy Leach, I think we had about 600 blips. So a blip is an 8-second interval on a digital billboard. And Randy's billboard, the main one, was on I-70 at the Legends area next to what it was, or I don't know if it still is, but the Hollywood Casino at 110th Street exit. So Randy's was running on that board. After Randy, I did Star Boomer. Star Boomer's board, which we were really lucky, is on 635 down by the rail yard, which is not far from where she supposedly everything happened with her. So I ran her board down there. Then I had Justin Siwick. I had his board running, and his board ran at the 110th Street on I-70. And then there's also one on I-70, and I believe it is on the east side of 635 on I-70. So his was running down there also. And then I had Abby Schaefer. I had her board running. But for some reason, the boards that I had her on, which was over in the Kansas City, Missouri area, which I believe the boards I had was somewhat close to where she had lived. For some reason, the boards were full, and my billboard for her was not ran. And I'll get to that in a minute, why that can happen. So then I decided to start looking into some of our other cases. So Rachel Conger, I looked into Rachel's case, and then I noticed that Rachel, the area that she went missing from in Paris, Tennessee, that there was a board on each side of the highway right in the town where she went missing. So I ran her board for a few days down there, and I think it had over 1,400 blips over a couple days. So that was pretty impressive that I was able to get that much screen time on those digital billboards. So after I got through with Rachel's board, I then moved over to Selena Mays, and I ran Selena Mays' board. Well, Selena is from Willingboro, New Jersey, and this is a young girl who was 12 years old, if I remember correctly, who ended up getting pregnant. And then she vanished, disappeared. And that was in Willingboro, New Jersey. I ran her board, and I wasn't quite able to get a board that was right in Willingboro, but I was able to get one, and according to the map, it looked like it was about 10 minutes away from that town, but it was in the next town, kind of southeast. So I ran it for a couple days over there, and I think it had about almost 1,500 blips. And once again, like I said, a blip is about 8 seconds long. That's how long it stays up on the digital billboard. So that is the ones that I have ran so far. So basically, it's like I said with Abby Schaefer's, hers did not run. So when Blip buys billboard space, it basically could be 5 hours a day. It could be 12 hours a day. It could be 2 hours a day on a customer's board. So your blip runs about 8 seconds. And like I said, there's multiple times a day where you can have it run. You can have it run all day long. It can run at meal times, basically when people are driving. It can be at high traffic times, like early in the morning when people are going to work between 6 and 8, or coming home between 4 and 6 in the evening. Or it can be off-peak schedule where it will run off-peak time at anything else. So each of these different time zones have a different hourly rate, or blip rate, I'm sorry. So an off-peak blip is as cheap as 1 cent per 8 seconds. A mealtime blip might be 50 cents per blip. Peak driving time, either in the morning or at night, it could be $1.50 a blip. So my total cost that basically I've spent out of pocket to run these blips has only been about $65. So, it's a great alternative to get people's names out there for, highway traffic, city street traffic, to keep this in the public's eye. The problem is they do not have billboards all over every big city. Like in the Kansas City area, between Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City, Missouri, I believe they have 8 or 9 boards. That is it. In Rachel Conger's case, in Paris, Tennessee, they only had they had 2, and I was able to get space on both of them for a couple of days, and it was right there in Paris, Tennessee. We hit a home run with that one. We were so lucky. That the actual area that she went missing from, Blip, was actually buying digital billboard space there. So we have a list, and it's kind of hard. I got to flip sides, but this is our case load, and this is the first sheet that I'm working off of, and this is the sheet that I'm doing TikToks off of. And this is also the sheet that I'm doing the Blip billboards off of. So I think it's a great thing. The downfall is not every person on our list has a billboard anywhere near. I can give a perfect example. Ira Briscoe. He's a young man missing down in southern Missouri, and there's not a blip board anywhere near him. There's 2 or 3 other ones in Missouri. There's nothing near him. But when we come back to the Springfield 3 girls, which is Jennifer Lancaster, Monique Smith, and Sydney Smith, there is, I want to say, 8 or 9 digital billboards in Springfield, Missouri. So when I get an actual area lined out as close as possible to where those ladies went missing, and I had to have Dennis come back on here. Did they go missing in 1992? The Springfield 3 girls?
Let me grab their file real quick and I'll get that.
Okay. But there was a rumor that those 3 girls are buried, supposedly could be buried underneath concrete at the hospital, one of the hospitals in Springfield. That was a big time rumor that has circulated a lot. But, Dennis would have to look in the file if we can narrow it down to what part or what side of Springfield that these ladies were on, or possibly where the hospital is at. And then I will try to find the blip boards, in that area. Because like I said, there's 8 or 9 blip billboards in Springfield, Missouri.
And theirs was June 7th of 1992.
Okay. So I've got, that one. Another big case with a lot of people looking and trying to find this young man is Chance Engelbert. I have done a lot of spreading his TikTok on all their pages. I've had one of his, I'm not sure who it is, if it's one of his cousins or a sister, but they reached out to me on TikTok. So where Chance went missing, I went and looked, and there's nothing. There's no blip billboard anywhere near him where he went missing. And then I went to his hometown of where he was from, and there's no blip billboard, which it's sad because, not everywhere where somebody went missing is there going to be something that, another way we can keep, these cases in the public's eye and stuff. What was you going to say, Dennis?
Chance, that was, I believe, his mother that reached out. She's reached out multiple times.
Okay. So, I'm excited for this new part of Muddy Waters to, keep doing these. And one thing is when they call them campaigns. So each campaign is a missing person, and I usually do their name, the date that they went missing, and that's the name of their campaign. And once their campaign runs, you can run it as long as you want, and you can put as much money every day to a campaign as you want. You can spend as little as $5 per board. You can get 3 boards for $10, I believe. And then I want to think every other board after that, you've got to throw another few dollars at it to get it to run on it. But you can throw $100 a day. You can throw $1,000 a day. You can throw, if you have one board, I think if you do just one board, you can do as low as $1 a day. And, your best outcome would be to choose the off-peak hours to get the most blips as you can. But like I said, these are all rented spaces on other people's boards that you're buying space. And, if there's other people buying, which, like I said, that's what happened with Abby Schaefer's billboard, because the billboard, and I spoke to him and I asked them, why did her billboard not run? And they just told me that it was just so full of people and so full of advertising that I just didn't get out. So, Dennis, I believe I was going to tell you one other thing here. I can't find my notes where I wrote it. I'm sorry. But yeah, so as we do cases, and as you see, when today I actually got a couple of TikTok videos made. So when you see me do the TikTok videos, chances are those are going to be the next people in line that I will move forward with doing the blip billboards. Because that's just so an example would be Bruce Jacobs missing out of Edmond, Oklahoma. I did look today, and on Bruce's situation, I was lucky enough that Edmond, Oklahoma has 4 blip billboards available to use in and around downtown Edmond, Oklahoma. So he will definitely be, the next one that'll be coming up. And I will start sharing pictures of what the billboards look like. And, people, if you're in the area and you happen to catch it, please let us know. I would love to, hear that, somebody caught these. And also today I did a TikTok on Donald Irwin. And unfortunately, where he's from in Missouri, I believe it was Camden County, Missouri. I don't know the actual city unless it's Camden, but Camden County, when I did search in that general area, there was no blip boards available to advertise on. So unfortunately, that's another one in the state of Missouri that I can't do anything with. Just like Ira Briscoe's, there's just nothing there. I mean, the closest one to Ira would be in the Springfield area, and I want to say that's 220 some miles from where Ira was last seen to Springfield, Missouri. And then there was one that was about 200 and some miles southwest in Arkansas. When you cross over into Arkansas, that was south of him. So that, could possibly be used. But that's so far away from where they went missing that, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if it's worth doing or not. I don't know if it would help at all. So if anybody, has cases that they think, by all means, please reach out to us and, say something. And I will look into it and see if there is a blip billboards available in this area that, we can possibly move forward with doing some, advertising to help find people. So Dennis had to step away from the camera for a few minutes. I think his pizza's ready. And unfortunately, I can't see anybody's questions with the way the app is running. So if anybody has any questions, we will probably start into any open discussion of on Randy's case, or if anybody wants to ask any questions about any other cases that's that Muddy Waters is working on, by all means, start asking them. And as soon as Dennis comes back on live, he'll be able to see them and start reading them, and we can start moving forward with some of those topics. I do have a thing here we can discuss at the moment while Dennis is coming back in a short second here as soon as his pizza gets done. Oh, he's back.
Ugh.
You didn't burn your pizza.
Oh no, I had to step away a minute. The screen glare was messing with me. Catfish, I need my sunglasses tonight.
So I had mentioned if the audience, if they want to start asking questions, open discussion about Randy or open discussion, about any other cases, to go ahead. Fortunately, I can't see, but the current one that you shared with me. So I just had one pop up from Tamara Steer. I'm not quite sure how you say her last name. How much does the blip boards cost? So basically, it depends on what time of the day. You set your daily budget per campaign. So a campaign is what I would consider as one person that's missing when I do their board. So basically, you set a budget. And in that budget timeline, you can go in and you can choose when you want your blip to run. You can have it run all day long. You can have it run basically off-peak hours, which would be in the middle of the night, during the middle of the day. You have your meal time, which is lunchtime and dinner time. And then you have your high traffic time, and that is like 6 to 8 and like 4 to 6 p.m. on your drive home or drive to work time. So, of course, the off-peak time is the cheapest. And I believe it is 1 cent to run per 8-second blip. So a blip is when you have ever gone, driving down the road and you see a digital billboard and you see something pop up, a blip board, and the blip is a company. It's Blip Advertising. It lasts for 8 seconds. So the rotational is 8 seconds. So you get 8 seconds of time. And then they break it down into how many people drive by that sign every day at a certain time in their analytics. And they can basically tell you how many people they hypothetically think that focused on that sign they drove by and read it. So they break it down pretty good. So, if you set a budget of $10 a day and you do the off-peak time, so the best two that I've had that have had the most traffic was Rachel Conger and Selena Mays. They both ran a couple days. And I mean, I think the budgets were $10 each day on each one. And it was just crazy. I believe that those blip boards in those areas probably do not have a tremendous amount of advertising on them, and that's why my blip ran as many times as they did. And like I said, it also depends on where the sign is at. Like the one that I had Randy Leach running on, his board is, according to the blip guy that my guy that I work with, he told me is Kansas City's #1 blip sign, which is the one that's right by the Hollywood Casino at 110th Street and I-70 in Kansas City, Kansas, by the Legends area, by the NASCAR track. It has the highest digital billboard rate anywhere in the Kansas City metro area. So, of course, my blips there don't get to run very much because there's other people that pay more money, choose the better hours, so on and so forth. So hopefully that answers your question to a point, helps you understand.
And Dan, we'll get the information for, I think you're talking about Bruce Wayne Jacobs, the guy from Edmond, Oklahoma. We'll get that sent over to you. This case is about an hour or less from where Dan lives. And Dan does a really good job working on those cases as well. So we'll get what we have on that case sent over to you. And tonight, I kind of wanted to turn some things around on the viewers. And we'll take any questions that anybody has. But this time, I want to ask you guys some questions as well and get your feedback on those. And then we will compare any answers that come into what we have. And at a date after we do the timeline live feeds, we'll do a live feed and go over the questions we asked tonight and answers that's come from you guys and answers that we found, and kind of break that down as well. But want to go ahead and throw the first question out. Does anyone know of any other parties that were going on the same night as the pre-graduation party at the residence? And this isn't just Linwood. This is Bonner Springs, Kansas City, DeSoto, Edwardsville, any of the surrounding locations. Do you guys know of any other place where a party was actually taking place that night? And CP Shriver asked, back in '88, was the Leach property searched? There has been things that come out that hinted that it was searched, but when digging into it, I don't believe the Leach's property was ever actually searched. There's no record or document proving that the property was searched. In fact, I've seen more coming out that proves it wasn't searched than that it was searched. So it is my belief that no, the Leach property was never searched, at least not properly searched, and definitely not documented in the search if it was. When we first started working on the case, I was under the impression that it had been searched pretty thorough, but did find out that that wasn't the case.
So do you think that they never did anything at all? I mean, I know the police had to have came to the house and sat down and talked with Harold and Alberta.
They talked to him, and as Craig mentioned here, they did fly an airplane over the Leach property. But as far as being on the ground, like sonaring the pond, or dog teams actually searching the property, there is nothing documented that either one of those were done. But I believe it was the highway patrol that actually flew a plane over the property as well when they had their plane in the area searching for Randy or the vehicle.
You know, I personally think that, you know, and I'm not bad mouthing nobody, and I'm not saying anything negative towards them or anything, but if, you know, one of my stepchildren went missing or grandchildren or my wife went missing, you would think the very first thing that any husband, wife, anybody would do would be to have their property searched. That way, within that first hour of someone going missing, that they could make the police understand to please focus on everything else, you know. And but we know things do happen, unfortunately bad, and parents do kill their children and children do kill their parents. You know, we have seen it time and time again. But you just would think that they would, you know, hey, please search, do whatever you need to do so you can get this. Number one thought is, this is what happened, and start focusing on, you know, everywhere else. I always just thought that would have been the number one thing.
Heck, as protocol, law enforcement is always going to look at those who are closest to the person first to rule them out and then be able to move on. And you see that in every missing persons case. The first they look at is the closest to the missing person.
Yeah. I sure wish they would have done whatever they could do to make everyone focus on everything else.
And it was mentioned that you're not going to be able, or an airplane couldn't have been low enough to visually see some things that ground penetrating radar planes could do. That is true, but from an airplane, especially that time of year, and as early as it was that the plane was in the air, they should have been able to have seen at least signs. I know when they were flying the river in Stranger Creek for Waltwater that was there, they were looking for any signs of the vegetation being tore up and any signs a vehicle could have went through there. So they were flying low enough that they would have seen that. So I believe they probably would have seen a vehicle if it was parked off somewhere or something along those lines. Are there any documents showing Randy was ever abused by Harold? There's been some, I'm going to call them rumors. There hasn't been anything definitive one way or the other with that. You've got one group of people saying no, very close family, nothing like that ever took place. Then you have another group of people who say the complete opposite. So other than hearsay, basically, there's nothing substantial showing one way or the other on that. The reports on their car was said on documents that it was caused by brakes. I don't think so. I'm thinking it was deliberately set. What I've seen on the vehicle was that it was caused by a ruptured fuel line that sprayed fuel on the tire brake area, and that's where the fire had originated on the vehicle.
I just have a hard time believing that.
Yeah, that one. It screams red flags all around that one. It just,
let's be honest. We can recreate that test.
Yeah.
We can go buy $100 junker and go run the living crap out of it, put the brake pedal on the floor, driving up down the road, getting the brakes squealing hot, and then we can take a brake line or a metal gas line, and we can run gas and blow it through there with the air hose onto the brakes. And let's be honest, it's not going to catch on fire. I don't believe that. We can recreate that test and call that out. We can call that one.
Mythbusters.
That's right. I had a buddy one time. We were working on one of our trucks. And, he was underneath there with the torch, just cutting along. And I walked up by the front of the truck, and we didn't have a motor in this truck. But I saw where the fuel lines came up out of the fuel tank, and it was an old Ford truck. Run up, along the metal frame rail and up, and, where it come up on the inner fender to go to the carburetor. And it was literally boiling gas coming out of the brake lines because he was cutting with the torch on the other side of the frame where these brake lines were, and it was hot enough that the gas had started boiling in the metal brake lines and came out the end. So,
seeing Hunter One has a good point there. People throwing a cigarette into gas won't ignite it. It'll just put it out. And I've actually tried that before and it didn't ignite. And then we have another case that I don't want to mention the case it was due to what happened, but a relative of the person that was, in all honesty, murdered had her gas line purposely cut. And by the time she found out and was sitting beside the road, it was another situation where gas was squirting all over the tires, the brakes, and all of that. And she didn't have any issues with it igniting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're going to have to, Dennis, this winter, we're going to have to recreate this test. Even if I got to get an old, junk axle with drum brakes or with disc brakes. That car, to think of it, the car that they had would have had disc brakes in the front. Wasn't it a LeBaron convertible or something? So, I mean, all we got to do is get some type of setup, made up to where we can, we can figure this out. We can recreate driving and causing, disc brakes to get hot and then take a brake line with a valve and start turning on the gas to start dripping out of a metal line to basically, no, we're not talking about the Dodge 600. We're talking about the second car that replaced the 600 that later on somebody that Alberta and Harold basically saw the car was on fire sitting next to their house. And supposedly the brake line, the fuel line had ruptured and was spraying gas while the car was off. It was pressurized and spraying gas, on the disc brakes or drum brakes, whatever supposedly happened. So now to think of that, it's even more BS.
I just don't get that by that story.
It was a LeBaron car. I don't know if the fuel pump was in the gas tank or if it was on the engine per se, but if the car was off, I'm sure it holds some pressure somehow at some point. But with the car being off, I don't know. But I can't see it spraying enough. I just don't believe it. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm not saying that. I just don't believe it. This was after 1988, so more than likely it was all fuel injected. I think like 1986 was the last year most manufacturers used a carburetor, and it was all fuel injection of some sort. That's possible. It's very possible.
I'm writing all of this down.
There you go.
If the gas line was broken that close to the gas tank, the fire would have blown the car up, not sit there and burn out the broken fuel line. That would kind of be my thought on it. And just, I mean, the car was obviously not running. They were setting, according to the Leaches, they were setting in their house and they saw the glow through the window and went out to inspect and found that the vehicle was on fire. So that tells me the vehicle was shut off. They weren't out there near it. They just happened to see the glow of it.
So let's go back. So has there ever been any pictures of the second car that supposedly this happened to? I have not personally ever seen a picture of it.
I haven't seen a picture of it, no.
I wonder if Miss Tamara has seen a picture of it. Tamara from her, Tamara, who has a Facebook page about Randy on Facebook. I wonder if she's ever came across a picture of the car like that.
That'd be a good question to ask her. Okay, Jen says they got a call from a neighbor that there was smoke.
Well, I would love to see pictures of this car. There had to have been some documentational proof, when there was a report. If there was a fire, the fire marshal had to be called from the fire department, correct?
Right.
So they had to have it. They had to have been pictures taken. There's got to be a police report because I'm sure it was an insurance claim. So, was the car totaled? Did you ever hear that?
That I'm not sure on.
I mean, because I don't know how bad the fire was. I guess if it was bad enough that the neighbors saw it, it probably was bad enough that they totaled it. If it caught the tire, because didn't you say in the past, didn't you or somebody say that the tires had actually popped on the front of the car?
That I'm honestly not real sure of the damage, but I would assume it probably totaled it.
Okay. Well, that's definitely something we should try to.
Jennifer has a newspaper article about a car fire, but she couldn't find a follow-up.
Okay.
And was the Leach's dog killed before the car fire or after?
I don't think we can speculate that the Leach's dog was killed because we don't know if it was killed or it just ran off. We don't. I mean, I don't think they ever found the remains of the dog. Is that correct? I haven't ever heard that they found remains of Crackers, the German Shepherd. So, but as in, was the dog killed before the car fire, after? I really don't know. I don't know that time period. I don't know. I don't even really know if we haven't even seen anything set in stone that says on this here date, this is when the dog disappeared.
And with the car off, the electric fuel pump off with the key, no power, there wouldn't have been any fuel pressure because the fuel tank is vented. It wouldn't spray. Catfish said he heard the dog ran out in the field and never came back. And then I've seen reports that the dog would run back and spend hours laying on the bank of the pond.
We did hear that. That is dog.
So that is actually in a couple of those reports where that was mentioned. And then the dog went missing. They didn't know what happened to the dog.
And the accusations and people were, their theories and rumors that Randy is buried in the dam or in the pond and the dog was smelling his scent. And that's been brought up many times.
And are Betty and Larry related to the Leaches? They're not actually related. They're just really close friends. If you stab the fuel tank, it will leak until it's empty. Now Hunter One's telling people how they can get free gas.
Maybe I don't know if you saw the video on YouTube. You know what I'm talking about? The guy drilling in the gas tank with the bucket in the mechanic shop with a bucket under, and all of a sudden the gas runs out and it catches fire, and the next thing you see, he's trying to run around and put the fire out, the fire extinguisher, and then the whole mechanic shop's on fire. Yeah.
When Alberta dies, who gets the property? That I honestly couldn't tell you. I don't know. How did the major tornado that hit Linwood affect the searching? say we didn't start searching till after the tornado. It's been a year and a half or so that we started working on the case. So I'm not sure how that affected the search in that time frame of that tornado. And Craig says the gas may have trickled out, but not with pressure behind it. It wouldn't spray. And Hunter One says, don't try it on your own car. Catfish. Now we all know where Dennis getting his gas from. Only when I do come down to visit Catfish, I will remember this and get my free gas from Catfish.
I'm gonna have to see if there's a blip billboard down by Catfish. I'll put there's gonna be a huge party at his place on such and such a date.
Big fish fry.
Big fish fry. BYOB.
He sent me pictures of 3 catfish he recently caught, and he caught 3 giants. They were all 3 like 80 to 90 pounds apiece.
Man. Wonder what his secret is.
And guys, I'm going to throw out another question on Randy's case. Have you heard if anyone in the area that may have any kind of connection to Randy, not just his disappearance, but any connection at all, who may have had any kind of construction work going on at the time Randy went missing? Did Randy go to school the Friday of the party? It was stated he did, but he also went to pick up the tractor and cut 2 large lawns. Jen, I haven't seen anything definite showing either way, but I did see where it had been stated that he went to school that day. But then, like most of the stuff with this case, there's normally 2 or 3 versions of what may or may not have happened or been done. So it's really hard to say, but my belief is that he was in school that Friday.
Yeah, because there was some stuff floating around a couple days ago that said that he picked up the tractor on Wednesday. That the tractor was not purchased on Friday, the day he went missing, that it was purchased a couple days earlier, and once again, that's where we get the audible on every scenario that you hear, every play, there's always an audible and something happens. And then you get some other rumor, and there's a rumor that, this was documented this way, and there's a recording of it this way. But, yeah, we did hear something the other day that there was information that said that the tractor was bought. I thought they said Wednesday.
It was with that one. It was a recording of, I believe it was Alberta, and I don't know if it was a podcast or what it was. But she had made a statement on there that he bought the tractor and brought it home 2 days before the party. And then Jen says that it was stated they bought it a day before and picked it up on a Friday. And Jen, this is another one of those inconsistencies, because there's been 3 different days that I've seen that he was supposed to have picked the tractor up, and all 3 days come from the same person. So it's one of them. You don't want to instantly jump to the conclusion that somebody's lying, so to say, simply because it's been such a long time. It's been 34 years ago So the small details and dates and stuff, it's obviously going to change. Nobody's going to keep every detail straight for 34 years and not get confused and get something wrong and then correct it at a later date type thing. But
let's be totally honest. Every single person that's involved in this that's still alive, it's been 34 years. And out of all these people, or 34 years, something is going to change here and there. I mean, that's just, I don't honestly think we can keep anything 100%. I could see a few years going by, 5 years going by, people would not, be just, have a detour from their original story. 10 years, probably starting to, but 34 years. Yeah, I'm sure some people are going to start slipping up just because it's been 34 some years, but there is some inconsistencies of stuff that's been brought up was inconsistencies back then. So.
And Jen, I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to suggest that, that you were suggesting they were lying. I just wanted to kind of break down how 34 years, not everything is going to be kept straight, but
yeah,
if there's anybody not lying, I believe that's you, Jen. You have been on the ball with this case.
We need to have Jen back on so we can do a map update of all the recent additions to her maps and stuff.
In Hunter 1, I've had issues getting permission to get on that piece of property, but we are still working trying to get on there. And Catfish says, if Miss Leach passes away, their property will go to the next of kin. So, and that, that is normally what happens, and I'm not going to dig into that part of Alberta's life with this, but yeah, typically it does go to the next of kin. Is there a reward for helping solve the Randy's case? I believe it's a $5,000 governor's reward, and I think the family has a reward on the case as well. And I want to say at one time that was like $20,000. I'm not 100% certain on that though. Hunter 1, that hasn't moved as of June. In Hunter 1, we will keep working, trying to get permission to get on that piece of property and get that checked. I wanted to be in the area this weekend and didn't make it, but hopefully I can be out next weekend. What about permission for the pond on 166th and Wood Road? That's still a big what if to me. That one, I have been by that house a couple times and I didn't catch anybody home. But we will keep going there when we're in the area and seeing if we can get on that. In fact, at this point, I'll probably send them a letter as well, since I haven't been able to catch them home. I'll try to catch them home one more time, but if I don't catch them home then I'll send them a letter and see if we can get in contact that way. But we do have a few different areas that we need to be in the area searching, and hopefully by this coming weekend, everything's good and I'll be out doing this, and I'll know more tomorrow. I got an appointment tomorrow, but plans are next weekend to be out doing some searches on Randy's case.
Hopefully, we're headed down COVID-6.
Yeah. Can you throw the fishing rod sonar on it from public land to gauge the depth? I don't have the fishing pole sonar just yet. The sonar I do have hooks up to my little boat, and then I've got the underwater camera system. I did find out that the underwater camera system, you could actually cast out with the fishing pole as well.
Oh, cool.
So worst case scenario, we'd be able to do that. But if it's public land, if the water's public too, then we'd be able to just put the little boat on it and go out and sonar that.
So what talking about? Are you talking about the sonar unit thing that you had just got, or are you talking about the bobber sonar thing?
The bobber sonar, the iBobber, is what I'm going to be getting soon. And a guy that I worked with, I had seen them advertised and was curious about them. A guy that I worked with got one for Christmas last year. And I told him, you know, when you take this out and try it, let me know how good it is, because there's some areas we would like to search that we can't get a boat in. That this would be great if it would show the structure and stuff that's on the bottom. And he come in and he said he was seeing details of sticks, barrels, a bunch of junk on the bottom when he was out fishing.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
And they have a new underwater drone now that comes with the controller and 300 foot of line. Check out the Deeper Chirp versus the iBobber. I'll check that one out. And the reason I was going with the iBobber at this point was simply because the guy that I worked with, he grew up fishing, fished all his life, and he was telling me the images he was getting on there was really detailed for what that is. And obviously it's not going to be as good as your regular sonar you mount up on your boat, but if it will show you what's down there, you know, you're at least going to get eyes on it.
Yeah.
Then if there is something there of interest, it'll be getting the camera out there to get down on it to confirm what's actually there. But
Hey, Dennis, how many people do we have watching right now?
right now, the number keeps going from 17 to 20. And it's at 16 right now. I mean, it's constantly moving.
Yeah.
And guys, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please hit the subscribe button. I was going through trying to find where these videos went that disappeared, and I was going through all the numbers and stuff, and 63% of those who watch the live feeds and the videos are not subscribers. So please hit the subscribe button, like the video, and help and share the videos. Help us get these cases out even further in the public. And we've got several of the new cases that come in. We still have to get the layout videos out to you guys. And we had, I mean, today I went through them and we had these 11 cases that these people have been found. 5 of them were found located safe. 6 of them was located deceased. But that's 11 families that have answers of where their loved ones are.
Yeah.
And don't forget, next Sunday night, 7:30 p.m., we will be going through and breaking down the timeline in Randy's case. Don't miss out on that. And I talked with Megan, and we're going to give away a Muddy Waters Search and Recovery t-shirt on that episode as well. So don't miss out on next week's episode.
We've got some other things. You know, we can wrap a few other things too.
See, guys, so don't miss out. It's going to be a good one. What is it to the rumors I've heard about Randy wrecking the car on the way to the party, not wanting to go home because of that, and Harold showing up at the party and flying into a rage over the wreck? There's reports that Randy did wreck the car before the party took place. There were some people who reported seeing Harold and another individual. They're not actually on the property of the party, but in the area. But there hasn't been anything to confirm that as a fact, other than so-and-so said that so-and-so saw this, and then when so-and-so's asked about it, they didn't see anything. So there's nothing definitive that says he was there and flew into a rage over the wreck. So it's like most of the rest of this case, it's just one of those frustrations that we just don't know.
Yeah.
And I know I've asked this before, and I want to bring it up again. I would like everybody's opinion on if this was an accident, if this was foul play, if he left on his own accord, or if you think it was something else that may have happened. But I kind of like to hear you guys' thoughts again on what way you think this may have went.
I mean, that's true. We always like to hear everybody's input. You know, it's a teamwork thing of trying to figure this out and sort through everything. And, you know, there's just so many rumors. There's so many stories. There's so many detours and audibles and things that people make up. And, you know, we all know there's one truth, you know, and all the rest of it is just BS lies, and trying to figure it out, because there's so many different accounts of different situations that happened, that when you look at the facts, there's so many things that look like it possibly did happen that way, that there's so many things that seem to be true, but then there's things that are not.
And Craig commented at that same time, everything seems to be hearsay. Nothing seems for sure after 34 years and so many stories, even the minor details.
That's very true.
Jennifer says, I think anything is possible, but with everything out there, I'm still leaning towards accident, at least until all possible accidental sites have been cleared on his route home. Saying accident is still very, very possible. Kate 88, I don't believe it was an accident, not at all. I know. I don't think anything could actually be ruled out yet, but I do lean more towards foul play in this case.
Yeah. I have a hard time believing he's in water anywhere. The water wasn't deep enough in the majority of the areas. We know that they searched by plane, that next day. We know there was people out searching. There was people looking at every bridge that he possibly could have drove off on, and nobody cited any grass, tire tracks through grass. There was no knocked over trees. At that time of the year, the vegetation was just starting to grow. And, we did our experiment, last April with, yourself and Jen. Jen was a part of it, and I was, cluing her in, every time we took pictures, for that experiment. I just personally don't believe he went off in the water anywhere. I mean, just the ponds that were searched, the people who, were searched, the authorities are trained at looking. And even, Bobby can bring this to our attention. They know to look for tracks in the dirt, tracks in the sand. They look for vegetation that's been, knocked over and stuff like that. That's just one of them that I've kind of ruled out since I've been involved in this.
And does the Leach residence have any memorial gardens or effigies? For example, my aunts inherited my grandmother's house, and they have a portion of their garden decked out with the memorial plants for her. I know they do have a garden, but I didn't, when we were there, we didn't look around outside. We visited with Alberta, Betty, and Larry, and that was the only time that we were on the property. I don't recall seeing a memorial on the property or hearing about a memorial on the property. I can't confirm there's not, but I don't believe there is on the property.
That was a good question.
Want to say hi, Meg? She waved. And what was the dispute between the responding authorities, sheriff versus police versus county, or county versus county? I know in the reports a dispute happened when Edwardsville and I believe it was one Bonner Springs off-duty officer went to search the caves, and Leavenworth showed up, told them they're out of their jurisdiction to leave or they were going to be arrested. As far as dispute, that's pretty much the only dispute between law enforcement that I'm aware of. Watching how AWP focuses on locations, there are about 3 or 4 ponds that fit the criteria for accident. Plus, would there be tracks in the area if it was a drought? Tracks, depending on the type of pond it is, you're still going to have impact where you hit the water, vehicles in the water. You're still going to have impact marks in the pond, and depending on the setup of the pond, the depth, the water clarity, etc., that could easily have been covered in murky water and not been seen. So even in a drought, I would say there's a good chance that there wouldn't be actual tracks, but the vehicle's going to have to go straight off into the water so it doesn't destroy any of the vegetation or anything that may be around there as well. So that is definitely possible, Jen, that could have happened.
Jen, I want to bring this up, and y'all can call me crazy if you want, but I think that is another experiment we need to do in April of 2023, because I want to be as close to the same part of the year, the same conditions as possible. The chances of trying to find another Dodge 600 car that's the same year, I don't know how hard it would be to do this, and like I said, y'all can call me crazy or not, but we need to find some people that have some ponds or certain situations where we can test some of these theories. And I know it sounds goofy, but try to get permission and have a car where we can drain the oil, drain the antifreeze, and push it down into a pond and see, what does the car do? What kind of tracks does it make in the grass or in the brush? Document before pictures.
Jennifer says, we gonna sink a car? And Jennifer, we do, thanks to Alex, we do have access to a wrecker. So if we did sink a car in a pond, we're going to be able to pull it right back out and not leave it. Catfish says, Jen, maybe Alex let us sink his car.
Well, but I'm being serious, everybody. I mean, let's think, if we can find the same type of car, and we can get some conditions where we can roll a car, we can drive a car through a field, we can look at the before and after of the grass, the brush, we drive it through brush. We know last year when we did the experiment with the semi truck sitting off the side of the highway where, near where I live, I took pictures for the new people. I took pictures basically starting at the time that Randy disappeared, I think within the day of or the day after. And you could see the semi truck from the road. And, we were thinking, what if Randy went off in the woods somewhere, drove off through the woods, crashed in the woods? Any of those scenarios where the vehicle is in the woods off of the highway, And I think it took us 5 or 6 weeks for a semi truck that was white in color to totally disappear by vegetation. And I'm down for it. Let's recreate some of these things. Let's prove or disprove some of these theories. If a car did drive off into a pond, would you see the tracks on April 15th or April 16th? Would you see the tracks in the grass of a car driving through the grass? Would you see it driving through soft, embankment soil or sand? I mean, there's so many different ways we could do this, but I mean, this is part of solving this, and just going back to what happened to the leeches with that car. I'm sorry, I just don't believe the other car caught on fire the way it sounded that the police made it out to be. But I believe trying to do these type of reenactments and thing to prove or disprove, might be a key in helping us as Muddy Waters and helping other people out there, make some decisions on like, well, that does make sense, or no, that's horsemanaki. That didn't really happen that way. There's no way it could have. Or, oh yeah, look right here. you drove that car right across that field and it didn't leave any tracks. You know, I mean, and that's the science part of trying to figure out factual information.
Seeing Craig asked, are the water levels low now around the Kansas City and Linwood areas? They are. We did get some rain the last couple of days, I know, here in Leavenworth, but to me, they're lower than they normally are this time of year, but they're still not to the point of what they would be in a full drought like it was in 88. And Catfish said, I said once before and I'll stick to it now, Randy is not in water, but his car is within a 50-mile radius.
You know, and here's something else. You know, one of our goals at Muddy Waters is to end up with ground penetrating radar. You know, and Dennis and I have talked, you know, at my property, we've had some calves die a couple years ago. You know, they're buried in 2 spots on our property. I know where they're at. We had a school on our property, and I know where part of the foundation is and stuff. So Dennis and I will already have, you know, Dennis, I, and the whole gang are already going to have schooling to do just at my property when we get ground penetrating radar to be able to start learning what, you know, displaced soil looks like. What does building structures look like? And I'm going to be on a mission to find a Dodge 600. And I think Dennis knows me. If I have to, I'll dig a hole in my field and bury the car. To get to that point someday where we can run ground penetrating radar to see what a car looks like buried underground. No different than looking for a buried body. Because we have cases, you know, that supposedly there's bodies buried, you know, and that is one of our top priorities to hopefully acquire soon in the next year, hopefully. Unless Bobby wants to be Santa Claus for Christmas and hook us up.
Yeah, we have Star Boomer, Zeta Gordon, Linda Dillard, Crystal Kipper, and these are just 4 right off the top of my head that we need ground penetrating radar on because we believe we know the property that they may be buried on, and without ground penetrating radar, we don't have a way to find them.
That's right, and we need it. And I've tried renting it, and I can't get anything rented because of what's going on in the world today, and supply chain issues, and new ones not being built, and you know what's sad is we have so many people that are ready to help us at any given point. I mean, if we all we gotta do is dial that number and be like, hey, we need your help this weekend. Be prepared all day Saturday and Sunday to be walking, looking, sonaring, scanning, you know. And you know, we got so many people that want to help. It's just one piece of equipment we just need, and we just got to get it.
And Jen asked, do you have connection to cadaver dogs in the meantime? Not for Kansas, unfortunately, we don't. For Colorado and parts of Nebraska, we do. And in fact, I'm trying to get a time set with them to be able to use cadaver dogs to look for Linda Dillard up in Nebraska. But right now, here in Kansas, I don't have access to cadaver dogs just yet.
What I got a question. Where do people send dogs to learn how to search for cadaver?
They have
And let's be honest here. What do they take them to body farms and do training? I mean, just out of curiosity, where where do you go? Where do you buy a cadaver dog? I mean, I think the majority of them are German Shepherds, and I've got one that I'm willing to donate to the cause to get her to learn something.
See,
But
they have the I don't want to say schools, but organizations that take the dogs out to train them, and they will have on certain properties, they will have it set up for them to find the scent and mark the scent and everything. And we'll do a video on it one of these days, because it's a really, really cool process. And as Jennifer's saying here, it takes roughly 3 years to train a dog, 2 years for the handler, and 1 year. It's 2 years to train the handler, 1 year to train the dog. And anybody who has ever watched cadaver dogs work out in the field, it's sad because of why you're there, but it is such an amazing thing to watch, is watching one of these dog teams work. And we'll have to do a video on it and share that with everybody. And we get this set up to go look for Linda Dillard with this other canine team. We'll definitely be filming that as well. But it's just amazing how these dog teams work. And that same dog team, they actually put us on a couple locations for Chance Engelbert and Christopher Lupin, both in Nebraska as well. And when we're in Nebraska, we'll be searching a pond for Christopher and it's not a small river, but it's not a big river for Chance Engelbert. And that's because their dog teams led to those areas. But yeah, cadaver dogs and search dog teams, they are incredible to watch. And I'm still trying to talk Megan into letting me actually get a cadaver dog. No. She still says no, but I'm not going to give up on working on her. So you stole my dog. I need a dog, so I need a cadaver dog.
I'd say train him, but he hits his head too much.
So guys, I think we will go ahead and shut this one down. Don't forget, next Sunday night, 7:30 p.m., we're going over the timeline, going to break that down and jump into that. We'll be doing some giveaways on that live feed as well. So don't miss out. And Alex, anything else you want to bring up tonight?
I just want to thank everybody for being here tonight and being a part of, the live discussion. And, always thank everybody for their comments and, their input that they want to put into stuff. And, like we've talked about before, and I'll say it again, if you ever eyewitnessed anything that had to do with Randy's case, if you ever made, comments on these narrative reports and you want your stuff to be known that it's truthful, you would want to take a polygraph test, reach out to us. We will pay for it, and then we will, everybody will know that one accusation, that one rumor, that something that was put down on paper because you saw something is true, that it was, you were telling the truth, and it would be something that nobody's done, and of course nobody's come forward with offering to do this yet, but
we do have one possibility that we're still working on. Hopefully that will go through.
I I hope this person makes the right choice. I hope they find it in their heart to make the right decision and agree to do this with us and move forward. I really hope that they will do it. But as in anyone committing to at this point, we do not have anybody committed to take up our offering to pay for this and to prove to the world that, yeah, what I told the cops in 1988, 1991, 95, 98 was the truth. You know, that's what I did see. That's what I did witness that night.
See, and speaking of that, if somebody did see something and they do want to take a polygraph to prove it, but they don't want it to be public knowledge, we've got no problem keeping that confidential as well. Just whatever way is going to help you be the most comfortable to come forward with that information to prove it.
Yeah. But just, you know, I want to thank everybody that, you know, that does join us. Please hit that like button, share it, you know, become a member. If you could find it in your heart to become a member and donate one way or another, whether it's becoming a member that's a paying member, whether it's donating, you know, through the GoFundMe accounts. You know, every bit of this does cost money to do. Searches, gas money, you know, all these different ways that we have to do different like apps or different things we have to do to look up information, to research. Sometimes it costs money. There's honestly not one part of being involved in this that's doesn't require some type of capital cash flow to pay for stuff. So if you can find it in your heart to support us in one way or another, anything would be a blessing, and you know, we would be truly grateful and thankful for you for doing that. You know, like I said, our number one goal, number one piece of equipment that we would love to be able to buy is ground penetrating radar, because not only would it serve to help us in our own cases, but it would also help us to help other search related people, search related entities, whether it's another search organization, a police department, anybody. They could always call on us and we could be an assistance. So it could benefit more than just Muddy Waters by any means. So yeah, I mean, that is one thing that we would be so thankful and blessed for to have, is those donations to help pay for that stuff. So
and with donations, Megan does have the Muddy Water t-shirts on her Etsy account that 100% of the proceeds from those go into our search efforts, and a percentage of all of her other merchandise on there goes into this as well. And the link to that is down in the video description. And we're getting closer and closer to Christmas, guys.
That's right.
Good place to look.
And something else is, you know, unfortunately, we did not get to have the raffle with all of us having COVID and being sick when we were going to do the raffle and do all this stuff. So I still have the brand new TV at home, the 50-inch TV, the 4K smart TV that we bought for the raffle. We still have a couple of boxes of stuff that Tony and Margaret had bought to, you know, donated for this. There's some stuff that Jet Heartland had donated. So yes, so we still have lots of stuff. We still have Dennis and I and the group still need to talk about possible ways of how we're going to do this. You know, we've talked about, you know, another meet and greet type situation, you know, doing, you know, some raffles around Christmas time, because, you know, we want to be with our members and people who watch the show, you know, we want to be a part of you guys, and we want you to be a part of us. So we want to be able to give back in one way or another, you know, something and do something, and you know, so we have that stuff that we need to do. But we've got lots of things to do. You know, if Dennis would stop being sick with COVID,
I'm gonna blame Megan. She's sitting here.
I'm going to get him a trophy made if he makes it to 10 rounds of COVID.
Jennifer says I need to be wrapped in a bubble.
Yes.
So I don't know, man. Hopefully you test not positive tomorrow.
Yeah, it's been dragging on.
I'm telling you, I honestly don't think I know anybody else that's had it as many times as you do. Have had. Oh.
It's bad when you're ready to leave the house and go to work.
Well, your case is ready to leave the house and go do another COVID test.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you got like a tapeworm that's got like COVID or something.
There's something.
Something's going on with you, man. You need to get checked out tomorrow.
And Jennifer says, like John Travolta, I need wrapped in bubble wrap like John Travolta.
Oh, man.
Well, guys, with that, don't forget next weekend, 7:30 p.m. Central Time. And bring your game face, and let's tear into this timeline, break it down, and see where we end up.
Let's do it.
So till next time, you guys stay safe, and we will catch you down the road.
Thanks, everybody.